What's up there, ladies and gentlemen? My name is James McAnally, Jim Mac, shut up and rock 8, whatever you prefer to call me. I'm going to be doing a winter regional report on my team that I brought to Virginia this past weekend, and had the opportunity to go there, and a lot of other great players were able to go there as well. You have Wolfie Glick there, James Beck, Paul Cho, who actually won the entire tournament. I believe Angel Miranda went there as well, Ben Hicky. A lot of really, really great and high caliber players, and that's why we go to these events, so that we can get a lot of practice against these people, and to potentially win a title, get championship points, and it's just overall a great time. I did fairly well in this tournament. That's why I wanted to do a regional report, and honestly, my Palkia was my secret weapon, my MVP in the entire tournament, and I really want to put this regional report out there so that people had the chance or the opportunity to see my Palkia spread, because I really think it's pretty unique, and I have not seen anyone use a Palkia at this event. The only other person I had actually seen use Palkia, or at least Palkia successfully, was Aaron Zhang, and I was absolutely obsessed with his team after he used it in Brooklyn. And he was a finalist there as well. The only the person that beat him was John who had the Ho-Oh and the Mega Ray team. But, I'm kind of getting off track right here, so we're going to get right into this regional report, and I do hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions about this regional report, please leave them down in the comment section below. And again, my name is James McAnally, Jim Mac, or Shut Up and Rock 8. You can call me whatever you want. So, how did I do at the tournament? So, you see here on your right-hand side, I did finish 39th overall. Now, why am I coming out with this report? I finished 39th overall. It's because I did actually pretty well. The only reason I finished 39th overall is because I lost the last game against Ajit Unnam, who also is an incredibly good up-and-coming VGC player. He just won the PC in Matawan, New Jersey a couple of weekends ago, and if I had one specific move on my Groudon, which you'll see a little later in this PowerPoint, in this presentation, I would have won that one, and I would have actually finished probably in the top 16, probably a little bit better than that, but I did very, very well. So I finished 5-3 overall. I finished 39th overall. There was roughly 200 and some Masters, I believe. There was 8 rounds of Swiss, top 8 for top cut, and top 16 gets prizes. And hey, when I was thinking to myself, when I was doing pretty well, I was 5-1 at one point, I was like, shit, man, I really like to get the top 16 just so I can get some more CP and get that prize. I did not know what the prizes were. I believe they had like Mega Rayquaza, Hoopa hats or something like that. I don't know, but it was pretty cool. And the top 64 was able to get championship points. And I had the opportunity to play 2 World Championship finalists, be it 1 in Ben Hicky and 2 in Jeudy Azzarelli, which was really, really awesome. Those were 2 very intense battles, and I'm going to go through them thoroughly later on in this presentation. So, what did I want to use in the regional, okay? I didn't want to use the standard 6. I completely wanted to stay away from the standard 6, and there were so many of those big 6s at this tournament, and I believe the top 8, 7 out of 8 of those teams were a variation of big 6 or big 6, just in general. My favorite core was Groudon and Palkia. Like I had previously said, that I was obsessed with Aaron Zhang's team. I really loved his PC team, so I kind of built around that, and my original team, which you'll see in just a few seconds, was his team with my own spreads, but then I built around that with help from other very good VGC players as well. So, a Pokemon that could resist Water Spout and Eruption is huge, 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 because nothing on my team really could really resist Water Spouts and Eruptions, maybe like Talonflame, but it still takes a lot of damage from Eruptions. Gets O-code by Water Spouts. I needed something to switch in on those potential Water Spouts and Eruptions. Palkia 4 times resist Water and Fire, so I was like, I have to go with Palkia. I love Palkia. It's my favorite legendary in this metagame. I'm going to put Palkia on a team, so I'm going to stick with the Palkia Groudon core right there. I needed a check to Kyogre, which was Among Us, but then yet again, I was looking at my team again, and I was pretty weak to Xerneas, so I ended up putting a Ferrothorn on the team in place of the Among Us for the Xerneas and the Kyogre check, which was really, really helpful in the end. And I end up EVing and breeding a goddamn Ferrothorn at 3:30 in the morning, the night before the event, which was literally like 5 hours before I went to registration, which was insane. I needed, a good chance or, the potential to OHKO a Mega Rayquaza and Salamence. That would have been nice, so Palkia also did that as well. I needed a form of speed control. Every team needs a form of speed control, and most of the teams were using Tailwind on their either the Salamence, which is kind of rare, so they usually would just put it on the Talonflame. And I was like, okay, I'd like to have a Tailwind option as well, but I also wanted a Trick Room option for boosted Xerneases, as well as those fast Groudon, so my Groudon could outspeed it onto the Trick Room and potentially OHKO it, which, was the case in a few games. And I wanted to tame Smeargle. Smeargle was very, very annoying to deal with. I faced 4 Smeargles in this tournament, I believe. I only lost to one team that had a Smeargle on it, and my hard counter to a Smeargle was generally just Kangaskhan and Talonflame. I didn't really put too much thought into countering like Smeargle, like Lumberry, Cresselia. I didn't really need to do that. Like I said, I faced 4 Smeargles, and I faced them pretty damn well. I think you just have to play well against the Smeargle, and you'll be fine. And generally, one thing what I would do is, okay, you lead Smeargle and you lead Xerneas. If the Xerneas Geomancies, I Mega Evolve my Kangaskhan. I go for the Fake Out into Smeargle, and I go for the Tailwind onto my Talonflame. And then I'm still going to be I would still be able to outspeed the Xerneas. Also, if it's Scarfed, I could just Brave Bird it, or, fake it out. I usually would just fake out the Smeargle turn 1, fearing, the Choice Scarf, because I don't want to fake out the Xerneas and then go for, the fake out to the Xerneas, and then the Smeargle just put both of my Pokemon to sleep, because that really wouldn't be good. And I only had one of the misplays once in this entire tournament. I played very well. And generally my team is weak to Groudons and Intimidators, because I have a Precipice Blades on my Groudon, physical attack, I have Ferrothorn, Talonflame, and I have Kangaskhan. Generally my team is all physical attackers, barring my Cresselia, which doesn't present much offensive threat, and my Palkia, which is all physical, not all special. But, one way that I could get rid of that weakness to the Groudon would skill swap on my Cresselia, which came through huge in one game. Okay, team building. Who helped me build this team? Now, obviously, this is Aaron Zhang's team that this team was based off of, so I picked the Pokemon that he was using with my own spreads, and I started from there. So actually, Aaron Zhang was indirectly helping me out. I had no communication with him. I didn't ask him anything about the team, but I did get the idea from him, so I do give him credit as well as helping me out this team. I did get in contact with Tommy Valentino Colleen as well as Marcus Statter, and they were more than willing to help me. They gave me a few tips, and I do appreciate their help. Also, the night before the event as well, I was hanging out with Will Vega, Matt Hazen, and Walter Morales, and they gave me a lot of good tips what I could do with my team. I was originally going to use a double primal team because I wasn't comfortable using the Groudon Palkia team. For what reason, I don't know. It was the team that I had the most practice with, and it was the team that I originally built for the event, but then I wanted to kind of be different and use dual primals, but then yet again, I was going to go with the team that I was most comfortable with, and I had originally Power Up Punch on my Kangaskhan. It was kind of a bulky set, which really didn't make any sense on this team, because it's based around Trick Room, and, wasting one turn for a Power-Up Punch didn't make any sense. I should have just went all hyper-offensive, and I got that tip from Walter Morales, as well as, Will Vega Mahazen, and they also told me that I should put a Ferrothorn on my team over the Amoonguss for, further coverage for the Xerneases, as well as getting coverage for your, Kyogre checks. So, I was up until 3:30 in the morning, re-EVing my Kangaskhan, and then I was, breeding a Ferrothorn. Luckily enough, I had a couple of Ferrothorns, and I just bred some more, and I was up until 3:30 in the morning doing that. And I woke up at 7:30 in the morning, took a shower, and I headed out. So I didn't get much sleep for this event, but, I did pretty damn good at this event, so I do have a lot of thanks to go around to those guys that did help me out. So, when I was building the teams, the original team obviously was the Groudon, Palkia, Kangaskhan, the Amoonguss, the Landorus, as well as the Cresselia. This is the team that Aaron Zhang used at Brooklyn PC. He was a finalist. He got beat by John, who finished second there. Awesome team. It was really really different from the Big Six that was being used, although pretty much like 3 of the Pokemon on this team were used on the Big Six teams. So the second version of this team was the Primal Groudon, the Palkia, Kangaskhan, the Amoonguss. I wanted to have a different form of speed control. I wanted to go dual speed control mode, Trick Room and Tailwind, and I also wanted to have another form of heavy offense or hyper offense on my team, and I chose Talonflame. Obviously, Talonflame is just retardedly fast and, you know, very, very offensive, especially in the sun if it uses Flare Blitz. And the Cresselia was still on the team for further support, skill swap support, and helping hand support. And the final version of the team was the Groudon, the Palkia, the Kangaskhan, Ferrothorn, which I switched at the very last second at 3:30 in the morning, the Talonflame yet again, and then the Cresselia was pretty much just there. It was there the entire time. I needed some way to skill swap, as well as supporting my other Pokemon with, you know, helping hand on my Jolly Kangaskhan, considering the fact that it won't be as strong as it would be if it was adamant. So, my first Pokemon we have here is Primal Groudon with the Red Orb. The ability doesn't land. The EVs are very specific here. 188 for HP, 212 special attack, 108 in special defense, and the IVs there are obviously Trick Room IVs, Quiet Nature, and Head Eruption on it, Earth Power, Pressless Blades, and Protect. Now, yet again, like I was saying at the beginning of this video, I should have put Overheat or Flamethrower over Pressless Blades, but I didn't do that. I changed it to Pressless Blades at the last second. I don't know why. To be completely honest with you, I think I wanted to have a way to hit Kyogre, which didn't matter in the entire tournament, so I was kind of kicking myself for doing that. He used Pressless Blades maybe twice, and I definitely could have used Overheat more than twice, and it would have won me single-handedly would have won me a game. And I'm kind of disappointed in myself, but we're going to get to that a little later. And pretty much this spread was built so that I can survive a timid Earth Power, 252 special attack from other Groudons. It was a guaranteed 2-hit KO. That is why I have these specific EVs in HP and special defense, and my Earth Power in return will KO 100% of the time non-invested Groudons. Semi-invested Groudons. This is specifically the EVs that you need to have on your Groudon in order to survive a Earth Power from a timid Groudon, which generally those were the Groudons that were being used. They were Jolly or they were timid. So that's specifically why I, you know, EV'd for that. And if they used Pressless Blades, that would have done even less to my Groudon, obviously, because I have a very high physical defense stats. So anyway, next Pokemon is going to be Palkia with the Hobbenberry. Ability Pressure, I did not use telepathy in this. There's no point in, you know, the only way that you can get telepathy on your Palkia if it's timid, and on a Trick Room team doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to use Palkia here. 132 in HP, 36 defense, 80 special attack, 156 special defense. Very specific. We're going to get to that in just a second. IVs right there, obviously Trick Room. And it's a Modest Nature. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, why are you using a Modest Nature? Why aren't you using a Quiet Nature? Well, that's because if you're using a Modest Nature with 0 IVs in speed, your speed stat will be now 105 opposed to 95. Now you will be able to outspeed Scarf Smeargles, which will have a speed stat of 208, and you will also be able to outspeed majority of the entire metagame. Actually, the entire metagame, unless they're Scarfed. You know, yeah, there's not many Scarfs Landorus is running around, but I mean, you're pretty much outspeeding everything with a speed stat of 105, unless they match Tailwinds as well, which had not happened to me in the entire tournament, which was really fortunate. So that's why I went Modest over Quiet. Made the most sense, and that's a tip that I got from Marcus Statter. He said that you don't want to have many awkward, you know, speed ties or like get outsped even if you're under the Tailwind, because if I'm facing like a Mega Gengar, or if I'm facing, you know, Scarf Smeargle, I set up the Tailwind, I'm still not going to be able to outspeed it with this Palkia, which would have made no sense, so Modest Nature was the way to go. Spectral Rend, Earth Power, Trick Room, and Protect, the, you know, moveset Aaron Zhang was using. Now this is a very specific EV spread, like I had said, so this Palkia always one-hit KO'd Salamances and Rayquazas. Huge, huge, huge point to make here, because this saved me in so many matches. Palkia was the MVP of this team. And in return, whether it was a Salamence or whether it was a Rayquaza, the Draco Meters would never OHKO, and the Spatial Rends would always OHKO. So 1v1 Rayquaza, and a Salamence could never beat this Palkia, unless I missed, say, a Spatial Rend. But the Salamence's Draco Meteor was a 3-hit KO with this EV spread, and because of the special attack drop. And say, like a Rayquaza went for the Dragon Ascent, these EVs were put on this so that I always, 100% of the time would survive it, and then yet again I would go for a Spatial Rend and Oko the Rayquaza. Also, something to throw in there Ice Beam was almost a 4-hit KO, and then I could go for the Spatial Rend onto the Kyogre. If it's non-invested, it could potentially be a 2-hit KO with a high roll, or it was a 3-hit KO, so that was something worth mentioning right there. Loved Palkia, huge asset to the team. Next Pokemon, obviously Kangaskhan. This is very standard set. I went for the Jolly Nature to outspeed Xerneas's without the boost by 1 point, and then get off a lot of good damage off into it. Fake out support is always needed, in my opinion, on every single team. And like I said, what can I say about this? Very standard. Although it's standard, it still works. And the only calc that I could put in here that's worth mentioning, that 252 attack, a Kangaskhan double edge, will Oko regular Rayquaza, and you don't always have to Mega Evolve Rayquaza, but it will never Oko a Mega Rayquaza without a critical hit, but it will Oko a regular Rayquaza, so I thought that was worth mentioning. Next one was Ferrothorn. Again, this is a very easy spread. I honestly don't even know what I was thinking with the spread. It's kind of something that I just put in at the last second at 3:30 in the morning. So I was busy just trying to beat it, and I got it bred, and then I EV'd it, and then I was in the Elite Four with both my Kangaskhan and Ferrothorn, trying to level them up, and I had to trade it to my other cartridge, which had like 27 rare candies on it, so I had to level them both up. Anyway, Power Whip, Gyro Ball, Leech Seed, Protect. And there's really not much to say about this, other than on non-invested Kyogres, this attack, 132 in attack, will still be an Oko on it, unless I obviously miss. And the Kyogre just has a pitiful matchup against this Ferrothorn, as well as the Xerneas, unless they have like HP Fire, which should never happen. Next Pokemon is Talonflame with the Life Orb. Again, another simple EV spread. Not much thought was put into this. Yet again, it is still an incredible Pokemon to use, and you just got to play well with it. And one thing that I would like to throw in there, Damage Calc, and this actually is a move that I did do in the tournament, in which single-handedly won me a game. I believe it was in round 6 against Alex Cathcart. I switched into my Groudon, got the Sun Up, and I Flare Blitzed the Kangaskhan and O-Code it. And it had like, I think 10% chip damage on it, and it O-Code it. So I was really pleased with Talonflame's performance in this entire tournament, and it won me a few games. Single-handedly won me round 6. So that was a really cool calc that I wanted to throw in there. Cresselia, Mental Herb. Now, one thing that I'd like to change about this set is, and one thing Marcus Statter told me to do, and I didn't do it because I'm just very stubborn, was to put Gravity on over Helping Hand. And I kept Helping Hand on there because I felt Helping Hand would be better in this tournament, in which I was wrong. Gravity would have been a better call, because my team is incredibly weak to Ho-Ohs, and that did lose me a game because of that. But calc that's worth mentioning right here, a 252 special attack. Urgent Pulse would be a 3-hit KO on this Cresselia, and then I just possibly set up Trick Room. Alright, we're going to get to what everyone has been waiting for, the rounds of the tournament. There was 8 rounds in total, and my first round battle was against Daniel Litvin, and he had a very interesting team of Kyogre, Ho-Oh, Salamence, Raichu, Gothitelle, and Ferrothorn. Now, by just looking at his team, I kind of figured that this would be Min-Speed Kyogre, with Trick Room support on the Gothitelle, as well as Trap on the Gothitelle with Skill Swap, which is a really interesting call. But this Gothitelle has a trick up its sleeve, which I'm going to reveal in a second, and Daniel ended up bringing the Salamence and the Gothitelle in the front to trap both of my physical attackers that he believed that were going to lead, which I actually fell right into his trap, and he brought the Kyogre and the Ho-Oh in the back. I knew he was going to bring the Ho-Oh, but I anticipated him to lead with the Ho-Oh, trap me in with Kangaskhan, and then potentially burn my Kangaskhan, because if I led with my Groudon, say, he could just switch in his Kyogre and then, take advantage of that with Sacred Fire on his Ho-Oh. So I end up leading both my Talonflame and my Kangaskhan. I could have just doubled up onto the Ho-Oh, but he goes for the smart play, and he leads with the Salamence, gets an Intimidate on both of my physical attackers, and, turn 1, I'm like, okay, He's probably going to protect Salamence, anticipating the fake out. But what he end up doing is he double protects, which is really smart on his play because, you know, he forces me to Mega Evolve, and I'm trapped. I mean, it's not like Gengar where you have to Mega Evolve in order to trap. You're automatically trapped with Gothitelle. So he ends up double protecting turn 1. I end up doubling up onto Gothitelle to take it out because I knew it was going to be a huge problem for my team if I couldn't switch out my Pokemon, especially since I was double intimidated. So he goes for the double protect, and it was pretty much downhill from that point. He switched out his Gothitelle into his Ho-Oh, and I got a lot of good damage off onto it. You know, in the following turn, he went for a Hyper Voice, and I ended up taking the Ho-Oh out with a double target from a Brave Bird and a Double Edge, but at that point, both of my Pokemon were severely damaged, and he ended up just sweeping me from that point on. I did bring him down to his last 2 Pokemon, which were his Kyogre and his Gothitelle, and I ended up going for a Precipice Blades with my Groudon, and I got them down to pretty low health, but my Palkia was on his last leg, and I needed to go for a Trick Room, and his Gothitelle had Taunt. And that completely caught me off guard, and at that point, I could no longer win the game because he could have just freely Water Spouted, and he was not min speed. He was flaunting the min speed with this team preview, and that was a really great match. And, you know, good game to Daniel, and he beat me 2-0 in this game. Gothitelle just easily went for a Psychic onto the Palkia, and then my Groudon could just no longer win against the Gothitelle in the Kyogre. Second round was against Kendrick Higgins. Now, as you see, his team was not very competitive. He did not have any restricted legendaries, and after the game, I had actually told him about, you know, the format. He knew about it, but he had no chance of getting any legendaries, and I kind of felt bad because this was kind of an easy win. He had the Politoed, you know, standard Brain team, I guess. And the Politoed, the Ludicolo, the Kingdra, Swampert, the Klefki, and the Pachirisu. And he ended up bringing the Klefki, the Swampert in the front, the Politoed, the Kingdra, and I brought my Groudon pretty much in the back and switched in onto his Waterfall, and I swept from that point on. I 4-0'd him. So that was an easy win in round 2, and I don't know what his record was in the entire tournament, but he actually did get a win. So okay, we have round 3 against Brandon Williams, and you see right here on the screen, very creative team. Big 6, never seen this before. Groudon, Xerneas, Kangaskhan, Salamence, Smeargle, Talonflame. Yeah, there was a lot of these teams at the tournament, and this team specifically won. And Polchua was using this, and the top 8 was just full with these Pokemon. So I kind of knew how to, you know, counter this. So what I did was I led my Kangaskhan and my Palkia, and a trend throughout the entire tournament where what people would do against my team was lead the Salamence, anticipating my Kangaskhan lead, which I did. So, I mean, I wasn't too upset about getting the Intimidate on my Kangaskhan. I'm still very powerful at that point. I am not Adamant, I'm Jolly, but still, you know, it's not that big of a deal. So the trend was they lead Salamence, and what I would do is I would lead my Kangaskhan and Palkia. I mean, you know, if the Salamence end up going for an attack, I would just get a Spatial Rend off into it. If the Smeargle went for a Dark Void, I would fake it out. I would always fake out the Smeargle. You know, generally what it would do is with Spiky Shield, but, you know, I couldn't take the risk of it being Scarf, so this was actually, I believe, Scarfed Smeargle, because I did fake it out turn 1, and it didn't protect. And Salamence ended up going for a move as well, went for a Hyper Voice. And then I got the Trick Room up. The next turn, I went for the Spatial Rend into the Salamence, and it actually protected, but I knocked out the Smeargle, and then, you know, the next turn what I had done was I basically just Spatial Rended the Salamence. I know I wasn't really worrying about a Xerneas switch in because I had the Kangaskhan, and I just pretty much swept from that point on. Got a lot of good damage off into the Groudon with Double Edge. It went for an Eruption, and there was the Xerneas in the back. After my Kangaskhan was KO'd, the Trick Room was still up. I had the Groudon, and then what I did was I basically just went for an Eruption with my Groudon and OHKO'd the Xerneas. That was the back. Really simple match against the Big 6. Something I was expecting the entire tournament, so I kind of knew how to counter it, and this was a win, so at this point I was 2-1. Alright, we're going to have round 4 against Andrew Hutton. I was talking to Andrew before the match, and yeah, pretty cool guy. He is actually from Ontario, Canada. I was like, holy crap, how did you get down here? He drove, and I was like, wow, you are a trooper. But he is going to have that Ray Ogre core team, which my team just really doesn't like to face, and I usually have the Palkia specifically for the dragons, and he had 2 of them on his team, and he had a Mega Salamence and a Rayquaza, in which he actually brought both of them to this game. I was kind of afraid of the Mienshao, but I still led my Kangaskhan. Generally, my Kangaskhan was the lead. I always led my Kangaskhan and another Pokemon. So he has the Kyogre, Ray, the Ferrothorn, Talonflame, Salamence, and the Mienshao. He did not bring the Mienshao, so I didn't have to worry about that. He led with the Salamence, and like I said earlier, people were leading Salamances left and right against my team, so I had no problem leading with my Kangaskhan for Fake Out support, as well as with my Palkia. He did bring, again, the Talonflame and the Salamence in front, with the Kyogre and the Ray in the back. He ended up Mega Evolving his Salamence, and obviously, you know, as you see right here, Mega Rayquaza on the screen, but it wasn't Mega Rayquaza, it was just regular Rayquaza, and, you know, turn 1, he ended up going for the Quick Guard. I didn't fall for that. I went for the Double Edge, and I ended up taking out his Talonflame, and his Salamence ended up going for a Draco Meteor onto my Palkia. My Palkia took maybe like 25% from his Draco Meteor. I didn't know what his investment was, but then yet again, I set up the Trick Room, and then pretty much just swept from that point on. He did bring in his Rayquaza. I just went for a Spatial Rend onto that, Double Edge onto the Salamence, and last Pokemon was the Kyogre, but it was pretty much 4-1 at that point, and that was another win for me. Now, I was kind of happy he brought the Rayquaza and the Kyogre in the back, because if I got rid of both of the Pokemon in the front, which were 2 frail Pokemon, I pretty much win the Weather War at that point, and I was pretty happy with my performance in this battle. Okay, we have round 5 against Ben Hicky, and when I was looking at the pairings, I saying to myself, that name sounds very, very, very familiar, and I was asking the guys that I was with, and they told me about him, and if you don't know about him, you should. He is a very, very great Pokemon battler. He was a World Championship finalist in 2014 in Senior Division, and that is a huge accolade. And when I was talking to him before the battle, I was like, I've heard your name before. I was like, what'd you do? And he was kind of hesitant to say that he was a finalist in World Championships, and I was like, dude, that's incredible. I'd be really proud to be able to say that to everyone else. And I knew I was going to have a very tough battle ahead of me. So he has, again, the core of the Big Six, but he has the Thundurus over the Smeargle. I wasn't too worried about the Thundurus. I kind of figured he wasn't going to bring it because I have the Groudon, and I have the Kangaskhan. I could just potentially take it out with a Double Edge. You know, obviously they usually have the Citrus Berry on there, but I didn't think he was going to bring it. And I, again, knew he was going to bring the Salamence in the front, but he paired it with the Xerneas, which was a really, really good lead on his part, because now he is double threading my Palkia if I do leave the Palkia, in which I had actually done. So that was a really good lead on his part, and he's going to bring the Talonflame and the Groudon in the back for further, you know, tailwind support, speed control for his Groudon, because his Groudon's actually a bulkier variant. And what I had done was I led with my Kangaskhan, like I always do, and I led with my Palkia because I was anticipating yet again another Salamence lead. So I had the Groudon, I had the Palkia and the Kangaskhan. So what I did turn 1 was I faked out the Xerneas because I didn't want to risk him setting up a Geomancy right in my face. Yet again, I could have went for the you know, Trick Room in retrospect, which I'd actually done, and the fake out into the Salamence. But what I'd done was faked out Xerneas, safe play right there, and I went for the Trick Room so I can outspeed both of the Pokemon. And another thing what I had done was, and which I was doing against Xerneas leads, I would fake out and not Mega Evolve, because what that allows me to do is, that allows me to outspeed Xerneas if it doesn't get the Geomancy up. Under the Trick Room, because I'll have a speed stat of 156 instead of 167, because Xerneas Timid Nature will always have a speed stat of 166 unless it isn't max speed. So that's what I would do. I would fake out, not Mega Evolve. Following turn I would Mega Evolve, and then I would be able to take advantage of the Trick Room with my Kangaskhan, and, you know, obviously Salamence is always going to be faster than Kangaskhan and Palkia. So turn 2, what I had done was I went for the Double Edge Spatial Rend play, and what he had actually done was he stead in with his Xerneas, and his Xerneas is very, very bulky, so it actually outsped my Kangaskhan. It got off a Moonblast into my Kangaskhan, and I think I brought it down to about like 40% health with my Double Edge. Again, I was intimidated, and he switched out his Salamence, I believe, into his Talonflame, and Spatial Rend took out the Talonflame, and then he brought back in his Salamence, and my Kangaskhan went down, and then I ended up bringing in my Groudon, and my Cresselia later on after my Palkia got KO'd, and it basically was my Groudon and my Cresselia against his Groudon. So obviously, what do? I reset the Trick Room, protect my Groudon. He can't take out my Cresselia with his Groudon, and then I just skill swap my Groudon, and then he had no way of hitting my Groudon. And one thing that I had said, he's a bulky Groudon, so I didn't actually get to OHKO him with my Earth Power, which I took note of. And, the next turn I basically just, Earth Powered again, and then I ended up beating Ben Hicky. So it was a really intense game. I mean, it came down to a 2v1 at the end there, and I ended up pulling out the win, so I was really happy with myself, because at this point I was going to be 4-1. Okay. Round 6 against Alex Cathcart. Now, I've never really heard his name around here. He is using the Big 6 standard Pokemon team, so I kind of knew what to expect from this. What I was expecting was the Salamence to lead yet again, but he actually leads to the Kangaskhan. It was the first Big 6 team the entire tournament that led the Kangaskhan. Usually all the Salamences were leading against me, so again, what did I do? I led with Kangaskhan and Palkia. I had no problem doing that. He led with the Smeargle as well. He had the Dark Void and the Fake Out Pressure. So he brought the Groudon and the Talonflame in the back, obviously having speed control right there, and this was the closest match that I've had the entire tournament. Yeah, again, they were all close, but this was so close. It came down to a speed tie at the end with Talonflames, and this was the game that I was talking about where Talonflame was my MVP, and I ended up bringing the Kangaskhan, the Palkia, the Talonflame, and I believe I brought... What was the last Pokemon? I don't know, it didn't really matter. I brought Kangaskhan, I brought Palkia, I brought Talonflame. I don't know, let's say I brought Cresselia. It didn't really matter. That Pokemon didn't do anything if I brought it anyway, because Talonflame was the MVP of this match. So he led with the Kangaskhan, and he led with the Smeargle. I was going for the Fake Out on the Smeargle, obviously. He did not protect the Smeargle, so it could have been Scarf Smeargle. He actually went for a Fake Out onto my Kangaskhan. He Mega Evolve faked out my Kangaskhan, but I ended up winning the speed tie. Unless he was like adamant or something like that, but I didn't Mega Evolve, so I was Inner Focus anyway, so he would have faked out into nothing, and then I end up faking out his Smeargle. So I think what he was going for right there was going for the Dark Void. He may have been sashed, but he didn't know I was Inner Focus, so I ended up getting the Fake Out into the Smeargle, and I set up the Trick Room, and then the following turn, I Spatial Rended the chipped Smeargle, and I just took out the Smeargle, and I end up going for a Double Edge into the Kangaskhan, if he switched it into, like, say, the Talonflame or something like that, and I end up doing a lot of good damage to the Kangaskhan, and then I followed up with a Spatial Rend the following turn. But what it came down to was he had the Talonflame on the field, and he had his Groudon on the field, and that was against my Talonflame, and it was against my Groudon. My Groudon, we matched Tailwinds, number 1, on the same turn that both of our Groudons Earth-powered each other. That was the second to the last turn of the entire game. So both of our Groudons were Earth-powering each other. Obviously, his Groudon's faster. His Groudon Earth-powers my Groudon. My EVs come through. I survive at 5 HP. I Earth-power his Groudon. I OHKO his Groudon. Now it's a chipped Talonflame versus my chipped Talonflame and my 5 HP Groudon. What do you think's going to happen? Oh, and we both match Tailwinds on the same turn. Our Groudons Earth-powered each other. Now, what do you think's going to happen the next turn? Obviously, Talonflame has to Brave Bird one of my Pokemon. Obviously, my Talonflame is the bigger threat to his Talonflame. So we both Brave Bird. I win the speed tie. I OHKO, I KO his Talonflame, and I end up winning 2-0. And that was huge because my Groudon wouldn't have been able to do anything to his Talonflame because I was 5 HP. I had 2 ground-type attacks with Eruption. I wouldn't do anything with Eruption unless he, KO'd himself with Recoil, but it wasn't enough. He wasn't in enough range to KO himself with Recoil if he KO'd my Talonflame, and I wouldn't have been able to KO him with Eruption, and then the next turn he could just Brave Bird KO my Groudon, so that was huge. That was a huge speed tie. Talonflame was the MVP. Oh, no. What happened was, in this game, I did not KO his Kangaskhan with Spatial Rend. What I did was, and it was a tough predicament, I switched out my Palkia into my Groudon, and then I went for the Flare Blitz into the Kangaskhan, because I was anticipating a Sucker Punch, and that KO'd the Kangaskhan. That went one-hit KO'd the Kangaskhan. So Talonflame, definitely the MVP of this match. I won this match, and I was 5-1 at this point, so next match, I knew I was going to be playing someone very good, and I wasn't anticipating it to be the person that it actually was. In round 7 against Jeudy Azzarelli. Now, this was a match I was really excited to play because he was a really good player, and he is another Worlds finalist in 2014 in the Masters Division. He played Sajin Park, and unfortunately he lost to Sajin Park, but it was absolutely insane that I was able to play two 2014 Worlds finalists, be it Senior and Master Division, and he was using the Standard 6, and what I did was, again, I thought he was going to lead the Salaman, so I brought my Kangaskhan and my Palkia in the front with the Cresselia and the Talonflame in the back, and he brought the infamous Xerneas and the Smeargle in the front, as well as Groudon and the Salamence in the back, you know, for further Intimidate support. And I did have a Palkia and a Kangaskhan against his Xerneas and his Smeargle. Now, Jeudy is a very good player. He is an incredible player, the accolades that he has received throughout the years. So I honestly thought he would go for a Spiky Shield with his Smeargle. I don't know why I thought that all of a sudden in this match. So I was considering not faking out the Smeargle because that was the obvious play for me to do on my part, so he could easily read into that. But what I did was I actually went for the fake out into the Smeargle, didn't Mega Evolve, and I went for the Trick Room, and the Smeargle ended up Spiky Shielding, and the Xerneas went for the Geomancy. And the following turn, I kind of figured he would have protected the Xerneas, because I could have easily doubled up onto it. My Palkia probably wouldn't have been able to do too much with it, but I could have gotten a lot of good damage off into it with my Kangaskhan, and obviously I would have been able to outspeed it. So I was like, okay, he's gonna protect Xerneas right here, and you know, anticipating me to go for like the double down into it and then just freely Dark Void. So what I actually do was I doubled up into the Smeargle with Double Edge and Spatial Rend. And what he did was he switched out the Smeargle and it brought in his Salamence. And he sacked the Salamence, which is good because he got intimidated on my Kangaskhan, but I did OHKO it with the Spatial Rend, and my Double Edge went into the Xerneas, and he did not protect the Xerneas, so my Double Edge did minuscule damage to the Xerneas. I believe it brought it down a little below 50%, and it went for Dazzling Gleam, and it KO'd my Kangaskhan on that turn, but it did not KO my Palkia. My Palkia was at 3 HP, and my Palkia is an absolute beast. It took a +2 Dazzling Gleam from a Xerneas, and pretty much at the point I was trying to climb out of a hole. I had my Palkia that was severely damaged. I had my Cresselia. I went for the Ice Beam onto the Xerneas to try to just freeze it, and then I went for the Spatial Rend into his Smeargle. Brought it down the sash because he did follow me, and I couldn't do anything at that point. It was my Groudon versus his Groudon and his Xerneas, and what he did was he just went for the Moonblast and the Fire Punch because he didn't want to miss Precipice Blades because he was a physically offensive Groudon. And I did get a Precipice Blades on the both of them. It did connect. I brought his Groudon down to 50%, and I brought his Xerneas down to like 10%. And I'm, you know, kind of like, you know, disappointed because I knew if I would have just had, you know, not Precipice Blades, I probably would have done better in the tournament. But, you know, what can I do? And I ended up losing this 2-0. To Jeudy because he just Moonblasted me the following turn. So I took a loss right here. I was 5-2, and the second match, well, the last match was going to be against Ajit and Unnam. And in this battle, if I had gone 6-2, I'd have finished in the top 16 because obviously Ajit beat me. I finished 5-3, and this was a very close battle. And, you know, he did finish top, he finished actually 16th overall, and I believe if I would have beaten him, I would have had a higher resistance, so I probably would have been in the top 16, probably higher than 16, but fortunately I did lose this one, and he had a very creative team, I would say. Very weird and questionable plays on him, but yet again, he is a very good player, up and coming. I was talking to him before the battle. He didn't have much time to travel events before because he was in college. Now he has graduated college and he's working. So he has off on weekends. He's able to go to events. He did win the PC in Matawan a couple of weeks ago, so he is an up and coming player that is pretty good. But when I was playing him, he did make a lot of questionable plays, and it did win him the game. But he did lead with the double genies right here, which is a throwback to VGC 2015. I did leave my Kangaskhan and my Palkia in the front, and he's going to have the Rayquaza and the Amoonguss in the back. And the Amoonguss is really interesting on his part to bring because I do have the Groudon, and he brought it, and that was a good read on his part because he was like, okay, I have a Ferrothorn. He probably anticipated me to bring Ferrothorn, which I had actually done, and good read on his part, and the Amogus was the MVP on this of this battle, as well as the Thunderous. That was really interesting. And he actually had Thunder on his Thunderous. Yeah, he had Thunder on his Thunderous, and he actually hit it 3 times in a row. Because turn 1, I faked out the Landorus. I didn't want to get him all. I didn't want him to get off like an explosion and like protect Thunderous. But he actually went for a Thunder Wave into my Kangaskhan turn 1. I faked out his Landorus, and I went for the Trick Room. And he got off a Thunder into my Palkia after I went for the Spatial Rend into the Landorus, and it did not KO, and he got an Earthquake off, and then he Thundered my Kangaskhan, KO'd my Kangaskhan. The following turn, he Thundered my Palkia 2 times in a row and KO'd it. Yeah, and then it came down to a 1v1 versus Mega Rayquaza and Groudon. Strong winds were up because he switched it in after I KO'd both of his Thunderous and his Amogus. And this is where it comes into place. If I had Overheat over Precipice Blades, I easily win because he was at like 50% health. And the only thing I could hit him with was Eruption. So what he did was he went for a Extreme Speed, so he didn't lower his defenses, because my Groudon was at like 70%. He brought me down to around 50%. I went for an Eruption, didn't KO, and then the next turn he just went for a Dragon's Ascent and KO'd my Groudon, and I had no way of hitting him. Even if he didn't, even if I survived, I would have been at like maybe like 10 HP, and I could have done nothing with Eruption. On that turn, he went for the Extreme Speed. If I had Overheat and went for the Overheat, he was in range to be knocked out by the Overheat, so that would have won me the game. If I connected, I would have been 6-2, but, I can't do anything about it. I did decide to go for Precipice Blades over Overheat, which in, reflecting on it, I shouldn't have done. But that was a loss. So I was kind of disappointed in this loss right here, because specifically if I had Overheat over Precipice Blades, I would have won. That match against Jeudy was a very good match. If I would have just predicted the Smeargle to protect and then go for the fake out into the Xerneas and then Trick Room, I was in a pretty good position. I mean, the Smeargle could have taken advantage of the Trick Room and went for a Dark Void, because I wouldn't have been able to OHKO it with my Palkia, but I was still in a way better position than I would have been if I just gone for the fake out to the Xerneas. And round 1, I was weak to Ho, so I couldn't do anything about that. That's where I should have had Gravity on my Cresselia. Anyway, I was pretty content of how I done. I went 5-1 at one point. I was the top 10 at one point in the tournament, and the 2 losses that I've gotten were in the last 2 rounds were to 2 incredibly good VGC battlers, and they were 2 very close games, so I couldn't really complain as to how I performed. I went 5-3, but that was a very, very, very good 5-3 at that. So some changes that I could have done to this team, again, like I said, Overheat or Flamethrower on Groudon over Precipice Blades would have been a better option. It would have definitely helped me out in the long run. It would have single-handedly won me a game. Gravity over Helping Hand on Cresselia would have definitely helped. For the Ho-Oh, Rayquaza, Salamence, I mean, okay, I don't have Overheat on my Groudon. If I had Gravity and set up the Gravity for my Groudon, I would have been able to hit 100% of the time, 100% chance to hit those flying types, so that would have definitely helped out. So, maybe Gravity over Cresselia and then Precipice Blades on Groudon would have been better, or just having Helping Hand on Cresselia and then Overheat on Groudon. I'm still weak to Ho at that point, but I think Gravity was the better call, and that's what Marcus told me to do, and I didn't do it because I'm stubborn. And predicting better would have been, would have been better. Maybe protecting on a few turns that I didn't protect, I would have survived. I knew someone doubled down onto my Palkia. I can't remember which round it was. I know Brave Bird went into it, and I believe Precipice Blades, and the Brave Bird got a crit. Yeah, I think that's what happened, and the Brave Bird got a crit, and the Precipice Blades just KO'd me, and I wasn't able to get the Trick Room. So predicting better would have been, really good on my part. So, playing better, but I'm pretty content as to what I did. So, my overall experience for any regional, and I've only been to 2 of them, it's just awesome. I love it. I love meeting new people, playing against new people, playing against high-caliber players, having a chance at a title to one of these events, getting that trophy, which is always nice to have. Say what you have accomplished accomplished, and just having a fun time with friends. The night before the event, I was over their hotel room, drinking, playing Pokemon, discussing teams, just bullshitting in general, and just, you know, going to these events with people, meeting new people. I did play that game against Jeudy. He was an awesome guy, as many people may know in Pokemon community, and it was just awesome meeting these new people. I can just see Ben Cooper in the background and Choppa. Choppa was wearing a really cool shirt. It says VGC 2016 on it, and it's just awesome. It's an awesome experience. I was actually able to sit at the top table. It was the first table, and if you do well in the tournament and you have a good record, you sit at that table. So I was at the opportunity to sit at the table in the last round against Ajit, and I always go out to dinner the night before, stay at a hotel against these at these places that are very far. I went out with my fam, and it was actually at a hibachi restaurant called Kabuto, which was incredible, and I know Kabuto the Pokemon, and it was a really awesome experience. I love going to these events, meeting new people, being able to go up to really nice restaurants. I am addicted to sushi and Japanese food, so that's what I had to go with. So I ended up getting sushi. Hibachi is also really cool to watch, and the food is just incredible. The chef was awesome, and I mean, just look at that food. It was absolutely incredible. And I actually got this playmat. It was a playmat they were given out to each one of the participants in the tournament, and this is a Break Luxray if you do play the TCG. And I thought it was really cool. I'm looking at it right now on my bed, and it is really, really cool. And they also gave me a Giovanni Scheme holo card, which has a regional symbol on it, which is, you know, just a thing they give out to everyone at regionals. Anyway, my future plan in VGC, what I really want to do is, and what I look forward to in the future, go to a few more Premier Challenges this year until Nationals. There are a few mid-season showdowns going around in my area. I already know that I'm going to one on March 20th in New Jersey, which Liberty Gardens will be hosting with a stream. And it's going to be at a convention center, so it's going to be like a mini regionals. So that's going to be really fun. And it's very close to home, so I'm just going to drive there. And 2 more spring regionals. I cannot go to another winter regionals due to work and a lot of things going on. There's a lot of weddings coming up that I have to prepare for, and there's commitments that I have on weekends, and I work a lot. So I am requesting off every single weekend in May because I have a wedding, I have a half marathon to run, and I want to go to 2 spring regionals. You know, a chance at a title yet again. Maybe, you know, I top cut, and I've been doing very, very well at the regionals. I'm doing better each time. Finished 51st overall. My first regionals 5-3. I finished 39th overall in my second regionals 5-3. I could have done a lot better than that. Finished in the top 16. So I'm really content of how I'm performing. So I'd like to go to 2 spring regionals, have a chance at the title for at least one of them, and then maybe top cut. Nationals in July, 4th of July weekend. I will be going to that. Probably spending an entire weekend in Columbus, Ohio, and Worlds in 2017. Now I don't plan on going to Worlds in 2016. I don't have enough CP. There's people that have 350, you know, 100, 200 and some CP right now. I got a late start. I didn't go to Autumn Regionals, and I really have no shot of going to Worlds unless I win like every single regional and event I go to, because I don't have anywhere near that I need for 350 championship points. So I'll be really trying to go to Worlds in 2017, and that's pretty much it. So thank you everyone for watching this video. Hopefully soon in the metagame, you know, after everyone gets their championship points. I know a lot of the really good players already have their invites to Worlds. Hopefully these top players will you know, get their points and stop using standard teams, because there's a lot of creative minds out there, but they just choose to use standard teams because the teams are good and they just want to win the event so they can get the championship points. They're focused on championship points right now and not being creative, and it's really restricting the metagame to evolving, and that's why I didn't want to use the standard team. They didn't care for winning. I would love the top cut, but I would love the top cut with a kind of unique team, and I think Palkia is really unique, and Dialga as well, and I used the Dialga at my last Premier Challenge and an International Challenge, and I do plan on using both of these in the future and coming up with different teams for them. So guys, thank you for watching. Take care. I know this is a long video, but it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I need to go to bed, and take care. Peace.